Welcome back to part 2 of The Sound. Ship Island this week. And the lady that's going to get us there, good timing. A Hunter Model 380 38-foot sailing vessel owned by Captain Michael Just. Easing out of the harbor at Gulfport, we were bound and determined to hook up with Scott St. Germain on the Stormy Lady. Fred, the owner of the Stormy Lady, wants to go out and tag along with us on this trip. So Michael and Suzanne, along with Indy and Bimini, settle in for the trip. Away we go. Ship Island or bust, and if I'm a betting man, I'd bet on us. Having made it out of the harbor, we are making way across the Sound, heading towards Ship Island, one of the most historically important barrier islands on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Ship Island gets its name from the deep natural anchorage that once allowed sailing ships to shelter there while waiting to enter the mainland ports. Long before the modern harbors were built along the coast, this island served as that natural stopping point for the vessels traveling through the northern Gulf of Mexico. Because of that strategic location, Ship Island has played a role in American history for more than 2 centuries. In the early 1800s, the island became an important quarantine station for ships arriving from overseas, helping to protect the mainland communities from outbreaks of disease brought by maritime trade. Later, the United States government recognized the island's military importance and began construction of Fort Massachusetts to defend the approaches of the Mississippi Sound. We'll be taking a look at that later in this video. And while these porpoises may be crossing our bow, they didn't ride along and play with us. And with East Ship Island on our horizon and the Stormy Lady already at anchor, we pulled up along her starboard side where she had set out the fenders and tied up so we could have a bite of lunch before we hopped on over to the island to do a little bit of exploring and stretching our legs. Now it's time for us to dinghy on up to East Ship Island, stretch our legs, and look around.
It's kind of nice only being 50 yards from the shore, isn't it?
Yeah, it damn sure beats what me and Scott had to paddle across. That's a reference to the Sound Part 1, Cat Island. Out here fishing on Ship Island. They've been here for a while. They must be on some trout.
I'm gonna swoop around to the other side. There's a boat coming out.
Oh, you're going to the south side?
Yeah, I'm gonna go around.
There's the good timing and the stormy weather.
Stormy Lady.
Stormy Lady, thank you. Welcome to East Ship Island. And we call it East Ship Island because this is the very eastern end of Ship Island. And it used to not be connected to the western side of Ship Island due to Hurricane Camille in 1969, cutting a slip through there that was called Camille's Cut. Then Katrina finished the deal off.
I just found the best shell ever. Yeah.
This side of the island is known for its seashells found all over it. Not only seashells, but apparently shark teeth. As Michael was telling me, he has a friend named Jean-Marie who, after about 4 or 5 minutes of looking, will come up with shark teeth. She must have an eagle eye. Now, I had my eye out looking for a crucifix fish. This is just the skull of a hardhead or gaff-top catfish, but its skull makes what's called a crucifix fish. And this is an inhabitant you will find in the Gulf, a jellyfish. This one's washed up on the beach, but Michael assures me if it's clear, you can touch it. If it has color, you don't want anything to do with it. I ain't messing with any of them. All in all, Eastern Ship Island is very much just a sandbar with lots of seashells that can be found throughout. No trees like on Cat Island, not much scrub, it's just pretty much sandbar and seashells. But it's also home to a resident crab that makes his living underground during the day and comes out at night. This is the burrow of an Atlantic ghost crab. They dig holes sometimes 4 foot deep in the sand, and this is what they look like. Mr. Crab on SpongeBob is based off of an Atlantic ghost crab. So we have these critters in the Gulf of America right here on Ship Island. Always cool to check them out. I'm not coming out here at night to find them though. When did you get good timing?
Got her in 2014 in Kima, Texas.
And
I was in a job doing a pipeline project over there. So when we bought her, I lived on it. Actually got paid to.
oh, you did that instead of a camper.
I did that instead of a camper. So they paid all my expenses for the boat to stay in Kima Boardwalk. So for a year, I stayed on my boat 3 or 4 days a week in Kima Boardwalk. And I'd get to go, my expenses, I'd get to go to the boardwalk and eat dinner at each little place every night. And they had this little Italian restaurant called Amadeus. A little Italian restaurant.
Like Mozart.
Like, it was awesome. It was this little shithole Italian place within walking distance of the marina. And they had the soft-shell crab. It was a sauteed soft-shell crab with mixed vegetables and a wine sauce. And they'd serve that over pasta. And I'd go in there and eat that pretty much every night.
Sounds great.
Drink 3 or 4 beers and go back to the boat and sleep like a baby. Wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work all day long.
Awesome.
Got to come in and go out, but Galveston Bay is really a shitty place to have a boat. It's just not like this.
Right.
Look at this.
So what brought you to Gulfport for when you were looking for harbors?
We were in Lake Pontchartrain for a long time. I grew up in Slidell, so Lake Pontchartrain, Slidell, and Mandeville. Kept my boats in Mandeville most of the time. And then Scott called me up and said, hey, there's an air show in Biloxi, come hang out. So one of my retired buddies that likes to sail, that I do a lot of business with, called him up and said, let's make a weekend out of it. We're gonna bring my boat out into the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America. It was Mexico back then.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go to Ship Island, and possibly we'll go to the air show in Biloxi, but I don't really care about the air show in Biloxi. We're just gonna go out to the island, just gonna make a guy's weekend trip. So we did it. With no navigation, no depth sounder. We made it all the way from Slidell, Louisiana to Ship Island, where the fort is. You'll see that later. And got caught in a fog storm, you name it. We thunked the ground, I can't tell you, 5 or 6 times. And then ultimately, Tom and I decided we're gonna go to the air show and go meet Scott and all of his friends. So we sailed over there in the fog, and rafted up with them and watched the most amazing air show that I guess it was the Air Force.
The Blues.
It wasn't the Blues. It was just an air show put on by the military. I can't remember which one it was. But dude, it was phenomenal. We stayed right behind Deer Island, and then we all moved up in the Back Bay. Then we moved back to Deer Island, anchored there for the night, and then Tom and I got up at literally about 30 minutes before daybreak. And we started the long trip all the way back to Slidell. Got all the way back to just in my home, where I'm all comfortable in my little home territory in Lake Pontchartrain, and realized this was after Katrina. Like I used to sail this little area right coming out of the Wrigley's.
Yeah.
And now they force you to like hug the land all the way around to the base of the twin span, and then come down the twin span and then go under the little bridge where the boats can go under.
Right.
Like I sailed these grounds my whole life. I could go straight there. Why would I go around? And ran aground.
You got a sandbar.
I ran aground, and it took 2 boats to pull us out. Two sea tows.
Yeah.
So already a long day, and it just got about 2 or 3 hours longer after that. So we got back to where I kept the boat in Slide L right at dark. So it was a 12, 13 hour trip. Long day.
Long day. Absolutely. So explain where we're going to the cut.
All right, so we're going to the cut. I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, they the Corps of Engineers, for their second or third attempt, tried to successfully connect East and West Ship Island together.
Where Camille had cut it in half.
Yeah, they used to call it Camille Cut. In '69, Camille cut Ship Island was one island, and it got split in half in the middle of the island, and they called that Camille's Cut. And I know of 2 projects in my lifetime of sailing in the Mississippi Sound where they tried to connect it, spent billions of dollars after Katrina trying to connect it, and abandoned that project. And a couple years later, for whatever reason, I guess some funding freed up, and they successfully were able to dredge it. You'll also see when we get to the fort, the water was actually lapping up against the fort, and they as part of that same project, they were able to
that.
they put a good 100 yards of sand in front of the fort. And when we get there, you'll see it's probably degraded a good bit. Again, I don't know. I haven't been in the fort in a while, so we'll check that out.
Awesome.
But it was pretty cool. It's now become a place where it gets real deep. You can pull right up to the beach and anchor pretty close, just like we just were, which is unheard of for Ship Island, because the only 2 places you can anchor close to the beach were on the 2 ends.
Right.
Because of the way that the current carves the sand dunes out. Other than that, the whole interior was always super shallow shelf that goes way out. So since this was man-made, they actually dredged this whole area from Ship Channel on in, and it made it deep. And so far, 4 or 5 years later, it's maintained its deep nature, so we can get pretty close.
That's awesome.
And it's not a far walk across the island. A lot of shells, because I guess all these shells over the years have that's what they dredged up, and that's the material they put in there.
Perfect.
So pretty good place to go for a quick weekend trip, where you can anchor really close, be protected from any winds other than a north wind. Any north variety, you're kind of screwed. Any south variety, you're great. East and west, great. So really protected, really close, and just good to look at.
Awesome. Like Mike said, before Hurricane Katrina, this is what Cat Island looked like, with Camille Cut prominently displayed. Post-Katrina, you can really see where the top of that island in the middle had been really washed away. This was December 2005. 13 years worth of current, you can see that Ship Island was cut into 2 distinct islands. In 2019, like Mike said, restoration efforts started taking place. And by December of 2019, this is what Ship Island looked like. However, that bar was still too thin. Throughout 2020, they continued with Ship Island's restoration. And after all of those efforts, at the end of 2020, this is what Ship Island looked like. Today, as you can see, East and West Ship Island are connected by a fairly narrow sandbar. Hopefully some vegetative control will take root on there and hold this in place to keep its barrier island aspect. Finally, making it to West Ship Island, we leave the beach and the dinghy behind and start making my way to check out just over that first sand dune. The dune piled up with vegetation across the top, that really helps hold it together. The roots of that vegetation holding the sand together makes this barrier island aspect work. On the other side of the dune, you can see the marsh grasses. And over to the left, Fort Massachusetts, and the whole reason we took this trip. West Ship Island is bisected by this boardwalk. The boardwalk takes you from the northern end of the island, which is facing the Gulf Coast, to the southern end of the island, which is facing the Gulf of America. You can see this island has many tourists that come and go with a ferry service that runs out of Gulfport, Mississippi. And the Mr. Pete makes several runs a day to get people out to the island. This is what we've all been waiting for. Getting to Fort Massachusetts, seeing what's going on inside the engineering minds of the guys back in the 1800s. However, as we approach, we find that the gates are shut. It's 2:42, and apparently they lock these gates at 2:30.
Sorry, folks, park's closed. The moose out front should have told you.
Yes, we're here to see Mr. Roy Wally.
As I stand here looking at this shut gate, I am seriously contemplating breaking federal law to see if there's a way I can crawl in. However, as my anger subsided, my calmer self took thought and said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. We're going to have to do this from the external of this fort. Construction for Fort Massachusetts began in 1859 as part of the United States Coastal Defense System. The unfinished fort fell into the Confederate hands. They only controlled Ship Island for about 9 months. In September of 1861, Union naval forces captured Ship Island and turned it into a major staging base for operations in the Gulf. The different color bricks you see is when one set of soldiers left and the other set of soldiers came and finished. The reason she's named Fort Massachusetts is the USS Massachusetts is the Union ship that actually retook this island. Fort Massachusetts wasn't actually completed until 1866, after the war had already ended. But the strategic importance of this fort was from this position, the guns of Fort Massachusetts controlled the entrance to the Mississippi Sound and the approaches to New Orleans. This port is an embrasure, the spot where the cannon would be sticking out of the fort. Hey, wait a second. I'm starting to figure out I can see into the fort from the outside. The idea has been formulated. This embrasure is open. And hey, my arm fits right through there with the camera. These arched chambers are called casements. Each one housed a heavy cannon inside this fort. The cannon sat inside this chamber on a wheeled carriage, and the barrel pointed throughout the embrasure. What my arm is sticking through to get this footage. The thick brick overhead protected the gun crews from incoming fire while they operated this artillery. From this embrasure, we can see that round brick tower. It is actually the spiral staircase connected to the upper level or the rampart of this fort. In this embrasure, we can see the other side of the spiral staircase cylinder. And that white staining you see on the brick, that's salt and mineral deposits from years of the salt water seeping through the ground above them, then eventually the brick and mortar, and left as stains on this brick. That staining is really showing up here, and you can see by the darkness that this wall is wet with that very process of white staining taking place. Fort Massachusetts is about 1/16 of the size of Fort Jefferson that you saw in one of our other videos when we went to the Dry Tortugas. But it's still a pretty impressive fort to be seen right on the Mississippi Sound. Standing outside Fort Massachusetts, looking through these embrasures, you're seeing the same gun positions that were meant to defend this island. From inside these chambers, artillery crews once watched waters of the Mississippi Sound, ready to fire on any hostile ship that approached. Today, the guns are gone, and the fort stands quiet, but these brick walls still tell the story of a time when this lonely barrier island played a key role in controlling the northern Gulf of Mexico. Fort Massachusetts is not the only draw to Ship Island. Ship Island is a tourist destination with a boardwalk that takes you to a beach. On that boardwalk, there's a covered seating area if you wanted to have a snack, bathrooms if you wanted to use an actual bathroom, showers if you got sand all over you. All of these things are for the tourists. Coming up on the snack bar, you can see in here they serve beer and other soft drinks, as well as having gift shop type items that you would find. I was very tempted to get one of those straw hats with the sunburn that I was developing. And this young lady is Maddie. She was excited to tell me about what she thought about Ship Island. Unfortunately, the audio issues that I was having did not allow me to hear her. So Maddie, if you're watching this video, if you would reach out to me in comments or shoot me an email. And just be aware, I will be coming back in a few months and we will close this interview out. On the southern side of the island, you find yourself facing the Gulf of America. These umbrellas and chairs are available for rental. You can rent those through the gift shop and have you a spot to sit and a spot to get a little bit of shade if you need it. And it wouldn't be a trip to Ship Island if you didn't have a gang of these roving porpoises running through the Gulf. They're actually called pods, but these are bottlenose dolphins, and they're cruising the Gulf of America, enjoying swimming around along with the tourists. Well, our day here on Ship Island had come to an end, and it was time to head back to Gulfport. We had a great trip sailing out to East Ship Island, exploring that side, and then checking out what used to be Camille Cut, now a remediated portion of the island, and even going to West Ship Island. It was time for us to head back to Gulfport, and with the anchor coming up and the boat turning towards the channel, the quiet of the island slowly gave way to the open water of the Mississippi Sound. Ship Island has been a waypoint for sailors, soldiers, fishermen, and travelers for centuries, and today we're just the latest ones that pass through it. Once clear of our anchorage, the bow points north and the mainland slowly begins to rise on the horizon. This stretch of water has seen just about everything over the years. Sailing ships, steamers, naval vessels, shrimp boats, and today, a steady traffic of recreational boats moving between the islands and the mainland. The Gulfport Harbor itself has long been one of Mississippi's most important connections to the Gulf, serving both commercial shipping and the local fishing fleet that has worked these waters for generations. And after a day of exploring Ship Island and Fort Massachusetts, the journey ends the same way it began, right here in Gulfport Harbor. But once in the slip, our work here is not done. Time to attach that spring line. Once we get that, get up to the bow and get hold of that starboard bow line. Unfortunately, I don't have quite enough on that boat hook. Let me push this front end over and see if I can't get a grab of it this time. There we go. Looks like the trip has wound down. We'll be able to get secured off and call it a night. If y'all made it this far in the video, please consider liking, subscribing, and turn that notification bell on so you can see the next time we have one up. Y'all do come back and see us again. This is part 2 of the Mississippi Sound series. We hope to have more episodes for y'all to come look at in the coming weeks.